All right, all right, all right. How are you? It is week 4 in our class, and I finished grading a little while ago your week 4 Learn Together. And, we're all kind of getting in the stride. I think it's, week 3 Learn Together, not week 4. So getting in the stride of what this class takes. And as you can see, right, based on everybody's different experiences they bring in, it can be more or less of a challenge to meet both the challenges in Andrew's course and then the learn togethers that I put together. Learn together. That sounds redundant. No, the work that I make you do. That sounds even worse. But you get the point. So before I get in, and I'm actually going to show you a code example that hopefully helps clarify for any of you that weren't sure what I was asking for, because several of you missed the added requirement I put for last night's Learn Together. And it was the idea that you have at least 2 functions. Most of you got that, but the idea that one function would call another function and then return a value that you would use in your code is something that I know can take a little bit to wrap your head around. So I want to show you a simplified example, again, using the idea of the Chrome DevTools because, and it's so funny, I was reading your post and many of you were like, oh, it's just too much. And then I think to myself, I remember this feeling. I remember the feeling of when I first went into DevTools, how do I get that? How do I wrap my head around, or it just seemed like too much information, I would bug out. So part of the reason why I keep coming back to it is I know how important it is. As an example, this morning, I was thinking to myself, what little code example could I write that I haven't written before? That would demonstrate this idea, and that might be kind of like topical for the time. And Super Bowl Sunday, I don't watch. No offense, you're going to be able to see that when you look at how I represented score, and I only represented it for one game and 2 types of plays, which is a touchdown or an extra point. I do know that much. I didn't do a field goal or any of that. But the point is, more than anything, is that I it was pretty simple, but for some reason it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And so I went into DevTools like I always say for you to do. And it took me a few minutes and I'm like, oh man. And it's so simple, but that's part of why it is great to understand what your code is doing. So I can't emphasize it enough. All right, so before I jump over and show you that, just FYI, one of my office hours for Monday was normally down at Bitwise, but it had to be changed because of committee meetings on campus. So go up and look at syllabus and you can see that on Monday Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I'm on campus. Monday's 1:30 to 2:30, Tuesday is 1 to 2, and then Wednesday I'm down at the Hive because I teach at night. So I'm down there from 4:30 to 5:20, and then I have my night class. And then Thursday I'm back on Fresno City from 1 until 2. So, I mean, the important thing is that, right, reach out to me if you want to chat about code, because the thing that's coming at you in week 6, and we're coming into week 4, so I actually have something in the Learn Together that is going to make you start thinking more about this and commit to the concept of what you're going to create, is your first develop Dev Zero, which is really you taking these concepts that we've learned, writing some code, coming to me for a code review, which means you have to walk me through your code. In order to do that, first you have to write it, and then you have to understand it and be able to talk about it. So I get that it's quite a bit, and that's why I recommend reaching out and chatting with me anytime you want to talk about code. Or having, talk to, I tell you, one of the great things is try to explain things to people who don't know code will really help you understand how well you know it. right? And it could be frustrating. Believe me, I've talked to many people who don't understand this concept. But anyway, so let me flip over real quick and show you. So what I did here is I wrote just some very simple code that keeps track of the score based on passing it a play. Was it successful? And actually, I ended up, and I didn't change this, but I ended up dropping this because I didn't need the score. Um, and you often see this is true, even if something's global, it may be passed just so that people have a reference, but because it's global, I wouldn't need it. But let's actually just, again, I'm going to set a breakpoint right here, right? So I'm calling play game 1, 2, 3, 4 times, right? And after each one, I just call current score, and then current score is just a console log, right? So in this case, but the requirement last night was that you have minimum of 2 functions, but one function that calls another function and uses the return value. So this is what I'm demonstrating to you here. So let me show you how this works. All right, so now I'm going to refresh now that I have my breakpoint. And now it's stopping here. Nothing's run yet. The only thing it's done is setting up in memory that global and these functions. Right, and you can we can go over here and look, but I'm just going to step into this. So I'm going to pass it touchdown, true, and again score, which I am not using, so I need to toss that. So now I'm passing these in, and you can see I'm setting score equal as the new score is equal to 0. And that's because now I have some logic that says and let's just walk through it, right? Is it successful, and is play equal to a touchdown? So if it was successful and the play was a touchdown, the new score, which is 0 before this runs. But what I do here is I actually then, before I assign that by running update score, and I pass update score a numeric value of 6. And then in here, I call it play score, right? And again, this just represents 6. And that's why this is so great, because it shows you exactly. If you're not sure what got passed in, it shows you what got passed. So this is a parameter and this is an argument. So it got passed in as a numeric value that then is scoped locally for play score that I can use in the return value or just in my code block. So I could have put 6, but I like to abstract this because I'm going to call it again in a minute with a different score. Okay, so now I'm going to return, but I'm going to take whatever was play score and I'm going to add score to it. And right now score is 0. So now I'm going to return, right? So I can see like new score is 6, right? Because it updated it. And now it's going to run this code block. Now this code block's not going to run because, right, it wasn't an extra point. But if score is not equal to 0, because if score is equal to 0, neither of these things ran. So I don't want to run this line. I only want to run this line if there was no change to new score, and therefore I wouldn't, right? I'd only run this if there was a change, and that change because I've added what was ever current in this line. Okay, now I'm updating that global to 6. And I come back down, and now I just do another. Now in this case, I could just jump over this next function call because I know what that one's going to do. I really want to look at this one, right? So I'm going to pass in 6, extra point, it's going to be true, right? So again, and at this point, you should be anticipating what your code's going to do, right? So new score is equal to 0 at this point, right? So it was successful and the play was an extra point, right? So now I'm going to pass that 1 point up to this function, determine what that new score is. So now it's 7. And is new score not equal to 0? Well, it is not equal to 0. So now it's going to take that score, now is equal to 7, right? So that's the idea I was looking for, right? It's the idea I was looking for when I added that requirement to this week, was that I wanted you, and I know it takes a little more thinking. That was my point of this whole discussion, was to say one of the things that's really helpful is because if you just try to write code the night something is due, and this is completely new to you, and even if it's not completely new to you, writing code takes time. Now, what's great is that there is a good portion of you out there that for this class that are actually doing that idea of working ahead. So actually yesterday, and this is going to be my hope for what we will see on an ongoing basis, is that I'm going to have written feedback in the discussion sometime on Thursday before the due date. Now, it'll probably be sometime during the day. So if you're submitting code at night, you're not going to see my feedback until the next morning, and it's too late to fix it. But more importantly, right, getting the concept down is really what we're referring to here. Because like I said, you have a dev coming at you, and that's an important part of this work, is knowing how to write code, like take a concept, write code, be able to walk me through that code and have that code be working. Right. These are fundamental parts of this class. Okay. Anyway, welcome to week 4. Glad you're here. I've enjoyed the folks that have reached out and asked for help and been able to do that. Please do that as much as you can. And again, the class chat is really helpful for that. So as a reply, it's Super Bowl weekend. Did this walkthrough help clear up what I was looking for in week 3 Learn Together? I hope so. So one last thing, in week 4, you have objects. It's got a little more content, so plan accordingly. That's the other thing, is breaking this down for me because I consume this code along with you. And so what's really important for me, like I've seen this code already, I don't have to watch it as intently, but I'm doing another course now where I do. And I have to take it in chunks. I have to actually like watch, set, think about it, and then watch, set, think about it, and then get my hands in there and get that muscle memory, because that muscle memory is really what's going to help you. Is actually getting your hands in there, taking a concept, creating code that accomplishes that concept. All right, enough for attendance. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.